I'm going to show the game between Sicilian Salov and Boris Gelfand. It was a very sharp game, and both sides made a few mistakes along the way, and in the end the last mistake decided the game, and we'll see how it happened. Sicilian defense, the Schweningen variation, which is characterized by the placement of the pawns on e6 and d6. With bishop to d7, black usually wants to trade on d4 and then transfer the bishop to c6. So white avoids this and plays knight to b3, preventing that exchange. Black continues with b6, bishop f3, bishop to c8. This is anticipating that white is going to advance the pawn with g4 and then advance it to g5, and just freeing up the square on d7 for this knight. And also the bishop may be later transferred to b7, but he doesn't hurry with this, as we'll see. So rook b8, this is preparing b5, and then possibly b4. White continues with his plan. Now, with bishop g2, white prepares the typical attack on the h-file with the queen and the rook, as we'll see. Rook e8. Now that the bishop has freed up the diagonal for the queen comes to h5. Black harasses it. Now queen to h4. Black basically has to do something, so he starts to create his own play on the queen side with b5. And now white continues with his plan, so he just wants to go rook to h3 and then give checkmate on the h7 square. Black could defend with something like knight f8, but that has its own drawbacks probably. So instead he carries on with the expansion on the queen side, and now he's transferring the bishop to g7, or for now to f8. Rook h3 is planned. Here black could have played something like the pawn to h6, but instead he went pawn to h5, and of course if white captures, then it's not going to matter much whether he played h5 to h5 or h6. But here it turns out that this pawn becomes very vulnerable to all kinds of sacrifices, and in particular at one point white could play knight to g3 and then knight to h5 and then give checkmate on the h-file. But of course it's not so simple, and first white has to undermine this structure of pawns, so he goes f5, and this does free up the e5 square for the black knights, but at the same time there's a lot of potential of having play on the f-file. Pawns get exchanged, and here black has to be careful. He has to be generating counterplay as quickly as possible. So say if he goes something like knight to e5, then after knight f4, white just continues to build up the pressure here, and then possibly transfer this knight to here, put up the pressure here, or maybe just grab the knight, grab the pawn on h5. So instead black played knight e7. This prepares bishop to b7 and generating play against the white king as well. So here white could have gone for the immediate attack, something like knight to g3, bishop b7, capture. Black gets his pawn, white retreats, and then after white breaks through on the h-file, white trades off the defender, and here white's attack is only enough for a draw, something like this, and then just this is going to continue with the checks. So the king is going to go back and forth, and so will the queen. So this was one way of continuing with knight g3 and trying to sacrifice on h5. Instead, white preferred to bring his last piece that wasn't doing anything. He brings it back into the game, increases control over f5, and he has another interesting idea in mind, as we'll see. Now again, this rook isn't doing anything, so white brings it into the game. Pressure on the f-file, black exchanges. And here, black made a mistake. He overlooked white's attacking idea. And the attacking idea is basically to undermine this pawn chain. And so white's move here is knight to e6. And this is very strong, because it threatens to well, it threatens the queen, it threatens to exchange this this bishop, and it also increases the threat of a capture on g6. White can just build up the pressure with something like knight to f4. So say if black captures immediately with f takes e6, then white opens up the f-file, and also now h5 is going to be captured as well. Say if black tries to free up 7th rank so that the queen can be transferred to defend the king, then white can just instead of taking h5, which is not so clear, instead he could here play knight to f4, and it turns out that black has no defense. White has too many threats. One is to capture on h5 with the knight and then bring this knight to f6, and there's just no good defense against that. Even though white's down a piece, his attack is crashing through. So black did not capture on e6. Instead he tried to counter attack against the king. So he played queen b7, increased the pressure on the king. So the king calmly retreats. Black has to strengthen g6, and now white brings in another knight into the game, and now this enormous pressure that he is putting on black here on the king side is probably decisive. So black had to capture, couldn't resist anymore. He had to capture on e6, and here white made a mistake. He must have miscalculated how quickly black can bring the pieces to the 7th rank and protect h7 and h8. So he should have had the winning position here with knight g6, capture knight e5, and the variation is a bit complicated, but it's a forcing win. Now the threat is checkmate, so black has to defend. Now white wants to play rook f7, but the knight is guarding that square, and also say if he goes immediately, then black may escape, something like this. So instead he increases the pressure on that knight on e5 with bishop d4, and black has no good defense. Bishop e5 is threatened. If he tries to exchange pieces, then the attack on the h-file and g-file decide. Here white just has to play a very neat move, g7, and this wins because if either rook or bishop take it, then there's mate. Say bishop takes, queen mate. If rook takes, then there's checkmate here. So, and after the queen takes, there's a very good move, rook to g6, and this is threatening to win the queen, and black has no defense. So this was a winning line. Instead, white took with the pawn, and this basically led him to a lost position. But of course, both sides have spent a long time to get to this position, so they were probably in time trouble. And we'll see that white's attack, even though it kind of evaporates, a little bit of the initiative still remains, and white manages to actually come out on top of this game. So he's down a piece now, and he's objectively losing, but of course he has to continue generating threats against the black king. So again, the idea is to trade off this knight. So he played knight d3. His last idea now is to transfer the knight to say here or to h6. So black just has to be careful. Now in this position, black just had to realize that white at some point wants to threaten with taking on f8, and he should have just retreated with the knight, say to d7, and then there's no more capture on f8. Whenever the bishop retreats, black is just going to capture on h3, and black is just up a piece, and the white king is exposed. This would have won the game for black. Instead, he went queen to d5. After rook h5, suddenly there's no more good checks, so the queen has to retreat, and again he made another mistake, and he overlooked that after bishop takes, the rook hangs, and if the rook takes here, then queen takes, rook takes, and then queen h7 is going to pick up this knight. So he had to bail with this, and I had to bail with queen to c5, and white ended up being up 2 pawns, and he went on to win the game. A very sharp game.